Okay, in the last video, I talked about taking a family taking inventory of its intellectual capital. In this video, I would talk about a family taking inventory of its social capital. I've written an article entitled "The Social Capital Committee: Its Roles and Responsibilities," and in that, I'll send a link to that article on the description of this video. But in that article, there is a section entitled "Taking Inventory of Existing Social Capital." So that will be the subject of this video. So if I go to the spreadsheet, so this is basically the same spreadsheet that I used in order to talk about intellectual capital on the last video. Just to show how simple all of this is, I'm going to unhide these columns, and now you can see that I can talk about the social capital from the same spreadsheet. I just added some more columns. So when you're taking inventory of the family capital, whether you're talking about financial, intellectual, social, you can pretty much inventory these things on a bunch of spreadsheets, and some of these spreadsheets will have information about several categories of information, right? So the first thing I want to talk about, like I say, all I did was, so this spreadsheet, if you saw the last video on intellectual capital, these columns in the spreadsheet should look familiar. So I'm just moving on to talk about the social capital. So the first thing that I will talk about, one second. Yeah. So since we don't need these intellectual capital columns in this, let's see, where are we? I'm going to hide these to make it easier to talk about this spreadsheet. These columns, and now we can talk. So long story short, these are the same family members, right? So if you remember, let's get acclimated to the spreadsheet. If you remember, this is just a list of a bunch of hypothetical family members. Like I say, family member 1 all the way through 100, but I only got the information for 26, okay? So we can assume that 1 through 26 or 1 through 100, these are family members, right? Each one of these family members, like I mentioned on the last video, has an occupation, okay? Now, when we're talking about building social capital, let's talk about what social capital is. We know that social capital is basically your network, in a plain English way, talking about your network, your network, your influence, all of these things. So if we're interested in building our power, then we need to be interested in building our social capital, because social capital is a part of power. Now, one of the ways that we go about doing that is by increasing our network. So one of the things that we see here, I tried to go in and create some logical categories of organizations that some of the family members will join. So one of the ways that we think one of the things that we think we should be interested in doing is joining other organizations, right? Joining organizations that would allow us to network with other people, build relationships with other people, so on and so forth. So if you look here on the spreadsheet, I tried to I listed some in these columns. I listed organizations that members of the family could potentially join, right? And so, for instance, I try to do things that make sense. If this person was a nurse practitioner, then they would join the American Nurses Association. If this person was a truck driver, then they would join the National Association of Independent Truckers, so on and so forth. So there are organizations out there for basically every profession. You can find some organization. Some of them are national, some of them may be local, but there are organizations out there. The point is, we want all family members to go out and join organizations, and not just join the organizations, but be active members in the organizations. Make yourself useful to the organization, move up in the organization, and even possibly seek leadership roles in those organizations. And as individuals in the family start to do that, then you can begin to see in a very logical fashion how the individual family members will they themselves start to build their network, their personal network, their personal social capital. And then when we get that information, when we get all of the adults in the family to do that, then it's easy to see the logical conclusion of that. And that conclusion is that the entire family itself will begin to build social capital. So if every adult individual in the family is building social capital, and then these adults have been brought together to operate as one unit under the umbrella of an organized family, then the family itself will begin to build social capital. It's very logical. Okay. Okay, one practical thing that I want to mention is no individual member of the family has to go out and join 100 organizations. If you see here, this nurse practitioner, her professional organization that she's a part of is the American Nurses Association, but she's not a part of any kind of civic organization, right? So we want people to go join organizations that you're going to be active in, join organizations that you're going to devote time and energy to. And if you're going to do things that way, that means that you're probably not going to be able to join 5 and 6 organizations like some people find themselves doing. Like when people are trying to individually build their network and they're basically dependent on themselves, then that's what some people go out and do. You'll find some people in 10 different organizations trying to establish a network. We don't have to do that. If we got family members in multiple organizations, then the family is building relationships and building social capitals in those organizations just by sending one representative of the family to be in that organization. So we don't have to work as hard. It's like, when your load is lighter when other people are helping you lift it. And no, it's not one individual's job to build the social capital of the entire family. It's your job to build your social capital and then put that social capital at the use of the family, right? So nobody has to join a whole bunch of organizations in order to help us build social capital. Everybody will join some organization. Like I said, in this example, you join a professional organization, but you may not even join a civic organization. Some people may be willing to join a professional organization and a civic organization at the same time. If you have the time and the energy to do that in the right way, then there's nothing wrong with that. Okay. So this is I think this is a pretty easy idea to understand. I'm not going to drag this video out unnecessarily, but long story short, each of the adult family members are not only, we talked on the last video about building the intellectual capital. How do we go about building social capital as a family? You go out, you do that by having the adult family members go out and join organizations. Some people will join a professional organization. Some will join a civic organization. Somebody may be in a religious organization or a church. Some of them may be in a collegiate organization. As you see in these columns, I didn't want to take time to put real organization, so I just put example org. But some of these people may very well not be in any org whatsoever. So let me just copy here, just to try to make this a little bit more realistic. So some of these people are being non-orgs, but not in any orgs at all. But the point is, when people in the family start working as a unit, and then the individuals in the family start going out and being very deliberate about building their personal social capital, then this social capital will come under the umbrella of the family, and then it will become the family social capital. I will talk in a future video. I will talk about how these things will come together to matter in a very practical sense. How can a family use its pooled intellectual capital to make progress? How can a family use its pooled social capital, pooled group social capital, in order to move forward and make progress? Right now, I'm just laying it all out. On the next couple of videos, I'll lay out the financial capital, how to take inventory of that, and then once I finish with that, I will talk about how all of these things come together in an example. All right, but that's it for now.